Good morning, everyone. Well, another day fighting back COVID in New York City, another day moving forward, and the vaccine effort continues to reach deeper and deeper into communities. We have so many new approaches, and they continue to bear fruit. As of today, 9,075,382 doses. Amazing. Just stop and think of that number, the sheer extraordinary size of this effort, and always be thankful for all the vaccinators out there, all the people who are helping to bring New York City back with everything they do. So that's good news, but we have some other good news when it comes to COVID today. And as of midnight tonight, the state of emergency in New York State ends, and that means the restoration of democracy in New York State. That means local control resumes. This is something that I stood shoulder to shoulder with county executives and mayors all over the state, Democrat and Republican, upstate, downstate. We all said we needed local control back. The crisis, thank God, is passing. It's time to restore normal democracy. Finally, this is happening, and it's going to allow us to do so much more to serve our people and move our city, and same for cities and counties all over the state, move us forward. So a thank you to all my colleagues in local government, all the county executives, all the mayors, again, Democrat and Republican both, who stood shoulder to shoulder to make sure this day would come. Now, vaccines and the vaccination effort are the pathway to recovery. The vaccination effort is the reason we get to have the recovery. But we also have other important work to do to ensure a recovery for all of us. I've said many times, recovery equals public safety equals recovery. They go together. And we have to keep building on our efforts. Yesterday, really powerful announcement from President Biden, comprehensive vision to address the gun violence problem, which is plaguing the whole country, cities all over America. We've dealt with our challenges. Tragically, a number of cities have gone through much worse than us. It all needs to be addressed, and it all is a result of the perfect storm of COVID. The president put forward an extraordinary plan, and it really mirrors some of the things we're doing here and we're very proud of. He talked about the importance of course, the federal government playing a more active role in stopping the flow of firearms into cities like New York. That mirrors what we're doing in our first in the nation partnership with the ATF that we announced here a few weeks ago. The president's focusing on investing in community solutions to violence, like our years and years of investments in the Cure Violence movement and the crisis management system, which is bearing fruit and bringing the community more deeply into the fight against violence. The president's focusing on expanding summer youth program. New York City, we've continued to expand summer youth, highest level we've ever been this year. And the president's focused on successful reentry efforts for folks coming back from incarceration. This is crucial. The question of how to manage people coming back, how to address parole. Commissioner Shea has been talking about this, and we were talking today. I remember the first conversation we had in 2014 on this topic. Change and reform, long needed. In the city, with folks in Rikers, we provide training and education to get people ready to come back. We provide reentry planning. We provide transitional jobs. But the state of New York has not historically. The state of New York sends people back to New York City without preparation, without support, and that's a huge problem. Some folks even are brought from prison directly to a homeless shelter. That's bad for everyone. We made real progress a few weeks ago in Albany with the State Assembly passing our parole reform bill. We're looking forward to the Senate coming back and taking the next big step. This is crucial for public safety and for decency in helping to rehabilitate people and move them away from negative influence towards a more positive life. So the president's plan tracks so many of the things that we believe in and we've been working on here in New York City. The plan we announced for this summer, Safe Summer NYC, is about those community efforts to stop crime. It's about courts coming back, and of course it's about cops, precision policing, neighborhood policing, the things that have worked. Now, today, something momentous. Today, something long overdue. We are talking today about the focus on young people that is now central to the NYPD's approach. We're talking today about Kids First, NYPD Kids First, a new initiative, and there's a fantastic booklet that's been put together to describe the many, many pieces of this initiative. I want to hearken back to just before the pandemic. I gave State of the City remarks before We knew the pandemic was coming. And with Commissioner Shea, we talked about the focus on young people. This is a passion of his, changing the orientation of the NYPD to focus on prevention, to focus on reaching young people, stopping problems before they occur, helping kids to a better path. This is something Dermot Shea cares about deeply. We were about to make it a major, major initiative, and COVID hit weeks later. We now get to come back and do this the right way as the city recovers, and this is the future. Policing with a lens of focusing on young people, proactive, preemptive, positive, building deep connections to communities, taking neighborhood policing to the next level. Great initiatives. Take a look at this booklet and you're going to see great initiatives. One I love called SAS, Sisters Assisting Sisters to Succeed. I love this name, Sisters Assisting Sisters to Succeed. Amazing mentorship program focusing on young women. Other mentorship and career prep initiatives like the Law Enforcement Explorers, youth coordination officers. So many pieces that focus positively, productively, creatively on young people. I want you to hear from Commissioner Shea in a moment, but first, a video NYPD put together to illustrate the impact of these programs. It's very, very powerful. I want you to see it now. Well, they say there's going to be a video.
Honestly, I'm looking forward to being able to hang out more. I'm fully vaccinated.
Since the pandemic is over, I look forward to playing sports.
Over.
NYPD Kids First is the North Star on the NYPD's path forward. It's gonna be a great summer for cops and kids. So many exciting things going on.
My name is Officer Frazier, and I'm a Youth Coordination Officer at the 106 Precinct in Queens. As the city reopens, the NYPD is putting kids first. Our goal is to give kids the tools they need to thrive: mentoring, internships, jobs. We're working with the New York City Police Foundation to give young people options.
The Options Program is a program that's funded by the New York City Police Foundation and works closely with the police officers of the NYPD to help provide for the youth and kind of just connect the community with the NYPD again.
We don't see the officers that we work with as officers. We see them as family. We see them as friends.
Some things I did in my options program was learn how to budget my money.
The reason why I like coming to 127 Penn is because here I have a family, I have people I could talk to.
Options has prepared me to go to college because I was fortunate enough to receive a scholarship to help me towards tuition.
It's an amazing program, and I really cannot wait to see where it goes.
The NYPD Explorer program teaches the importance of higher education, self-discipline, and respect for diversity. Community service projects are a big part of the program.
The Explorer program is very fun, and you get to meet new people.
Now I have good knowledge on what I gotta do as a policeman.
I feel like it's a good way to bring everybody together.
I decided to become an explorer because I felt like it was a really good opportunity. I get to see the inside world of the NYPD. I get to learn more about why they do certain things, why they make certain decisions.
They teach us about gun violence, gang activity. They teach us all that sorts of stuff, and they also teach us how to prepare for the real world.
The NYPD has invested money that they've seized from criminal cases, from drug dealers and other criminals, and invested it back into the communities. We're fixing up 15 basketball courts across the city in public housing and turning it into beautiful spaces for the kids and the cops to play together. Another great program is called Saturday Night Lights. In 100 gyms across the city, there will be a great sports program, free, exceptional, basketball, soccer, volleyball, in 100 different gyms across the city, cops and kids playing together. What we hear from our community partners is it's very simple. If you build it, they will come. In particular, the kids will come. And this is just the beginning, because for the NYPD, there is nothing more important than doing everything that we can to support young people across New York City.
No moment of losing, gonna push right
the resources to empower themselves paves the way for a better city.
I fight for my nation, gotta keep on pushing, gotta keep my concentration. Do you see my foundation? I gotta keep on building till I reach my destination. Why I stay hating? Don't wanna see us on the top, but we elevating. I'm waiting for the respect we don't receive. Yeah, I'm running out of patience, got me begging on my knees. Yeah, I don't wanna listen. All you gonna do is tease, brother us. We'll just sting you like some bees with shadies. Then you gon' know what I mean. Then you gon' know what I mean, be a queen. They gon' know what I mean. You gon' know what I mean. You're queen. You don't need to hide yourself from the world. We'll just have to get used to it.
That's so beautiful. That is really, really striking, really moving. And that is the way forward. To me, that's the epitome of neighborhood policing. It's taking neighborhood policing to the next level with the focus on young people. I'm going to turn to Commissioner Shea and say this has been a labor of love for him and for so many members of his team putting together this approach that I think is going to make a profound impact going forward. My pleasure to introduce Police Commissioner Dermot Shea.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. And I'll try to be brief, but I could talk on this topic for a long time. When you look at that video, I can't help but smile. And what I think about is the year or two we've had, and sometimes a polarizing time, but there's nothing polarizing about that video. It's something that really, the common ground that we all strive for, that we're all coming together for, and really, who could argue with putting the kids first? And when you look at that video and it encapsulates really an umbrella policy of what we've been working on in the NYPD for quite a while. I spoke about it at my swearing in, but really I've been working on it for much longer than that. And I have to give credit to many, many people, past commissioners, Commissioner Kelly, Jimmy O'Neill, Bill Bratton. This is a lot of work that has been done already and now built on and coming together. Chauncey Parker, Assistant Commissioner Kevin O'Connor, Jeff Marjorie, and many others, and all my youth coordination officers across the city. When you see that video, it's much more than sports. You see sports highlighted, but really it's giving kids in this city, in the greatest city in the world, by the way, every single opportunity to succeed. And it's not an NYPD video, it's a New York video. It's with our partners, it's with community groups, it's with, as Chauncey Parker said, redirecting asset forfeiture money, taking money out of our own budget, working with NYCHA, and I could go on and on. Are we doing everything we can for kids? When you see the courts, it kind of brings to the front there that this isn't something that we're starting now. We've been working on this all through COVID. Sometimes we may have been bending the rules and taking kids out and even working with them in that real tough time that they had with schools shut down and things of that nature, but that's the future right there, and I would say that the future is bright. Mr. Mayor?
Amen. And Commissioner, I'll be seeing you later on. We're opening up another basketball court later today, and I know it's going to be an important moment for that community. People just love seeing the investment in the community, in the kids. A lot more coming. I want you to hear from a couple of our elected leaders who really care and understand about youth and why we need to invest in them, why investing and supporting young people is so important to public safety. First person I want you to hear from spent several years as the chair of the Public Safety Committee in the City Council. She's passionate on the topic of investing in our youth. And she may, and there's a full count going on, but she may just be the next borough president of the Bronx. My pleasure to introduce Council Member Vanessa Gibson.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. You can hear I'm losing my voice.
It's a good sign. You're supposed to lose your voice after an election.
Good morning and good morning, Commissioner Shea. Thank you so much. It is truly a great day, and I'm so honored to be a part of today's announcement on NYC Kids First. We recognize June as Gun Violence Awareness Month, which has been an epidemic in our country that really demands our action and our attention. We are in a state of emergency that has claimed the lives of so many of our loved ones and fellow New Yorkers. I have hosted and attended far too many shooting responses and vigils with elected officials, with anti-gun violence advocates and organizations, and faith leaders in the aftermath of an act of violence. This is not normal, and we must continue to denounce violence in all forms. Every New Yorker, regardless of their zip code, has a fundamental right to feel safe in their neighborhood and not have to fear these incessant gun violence. We must be bold and creative and innovative in our approach to identify programs and resources and all of the safe spaces we know that our young people deserve. So I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, and our Police Commissioner, Dermot Shea, for taking bold action to address the epidemic of gun violence with mentoring, career prep programs, school safety initiatives, and expanding the role of our NYPD YCOs, our youth coordination officers in our communities to provide our youth with so many alternatives to crime, allowing them access and opportunity to be successful young people. I want to thank all of the organizations that have been on the ground, on the front lines, working with us in the Bronx, in our district every single day. This is going to be transformative, not just for the summer season, but also all year round. Summer Youth Employment Program, Cornerstone programs, Beacon, Sonic, Compass. I am particularly excited about Saturday Night Lights because I think it's important to open up our DOE school buildings. All of these measures is a part of our efforts to keep our children safe, to invest in their future, and to make sure that they have recreation, access, and opportunity so they can be safe, as well as giving parents the opportunity to make sure that their children are safe. So thank you so much and congratulations on the announcement of the NYPD Kids First Initiative. I am proud to work with you and walk with you on this journey, and I look forward to a safe summer for 2021. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much, Council Member, and good luck with everything ahead. Now, want to hear from a member of the State Assembly. And I want to start by saying a tremendous thank you to David Weprin and every Assembly member for supporting our parole reform bill, which is really going to make a difference. Took a major step, something that's been needed for years and years. The Assembly did that. That's going to have a powerful impact going forward when it's passed by the whole legislature, a powerful impact on public safety in the city. Second, David Weprin and I go back together to our first years in the City Council together. And I know he is passionate on the topic of neighborhood policing and bringing police and community together. So welcome to our gathering, Assembly Member, and we would love to hear from you.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Police Commissioner Dermot Shea and the NYPD for bringing out and highlighting this very important new initiative, NYPD Kids First. We are at a critical juncture in our city's trajectory. Unfortunately, crime is on the rise and distrust between communities and the police has grown. The NYPD Kids First program is one of the many ways in which we can build better relations between our communities and our police departments. Furthermore, the COVID-19 pandemic has brought on so many hardships for New York City school students. This has been a disruptive academic year, which is where NYPD Kids First program comes in. The NYPD Kids First program provides our young people with excellent mentorship, tutoring, and educational opportunities. Through the NYPD's Youth Community Center, young people have the opportunity to stay active by participating in basketball, boxing, and even dance programs. There are also so many programs for college and career preparation. Once again, I want to thank Mayor de Blasio and Commissioner Shea for expanding and highlighting this very important new initiative.
Thank you so much, Assembly Member. Thank you for everything you've been doing to support us in Albany. It's made a big difference. And thank you for supporting this great new initiative today. All right, everybody. We're going to go, as always, to our indicators in a moment, but I want to do something special first because we've got some people in this city who are just treasures. They're folks who have given their whole life to New York City and made a difference. And particularly this absolutely sacred issue of keeping this beautiful city together. The most diverse place on earth needs shepherds who make sure that all our communities stay in communication, that even in times of crisis, we find unity and that we support each other and create solidarity between communities. No one has done that more for years and years for this city more than Rabbi Michael Miller. This is a personally very, very important moment to me to be able to thank him on behalf of the people in New York City, because I have known him going back decades. His extraordinary work at the Jewish Community Relations Council has been, of course, about bringing forward the concerns of the Jewish community and supporting the needs of the community, but it's gone so much farther. He has been one of the great agents of unity, one of the great voices of the beauty of this city, the power of the city, the diversity of this city. You see some photos there where Rabbi Miller has been one of the go-to people when we needed faith leaders to think together about how to address a challenge, any challenge. Everyone knows one of the first calls you make is to Rabbi Michael Miller. 36 years of outstanding leadership to this city, for this city, fighting anti-Semitism, but also fighting racism and every other form of bias, building relationships between people of all communities in a city that needs those special people who know how to do that. I've also had the honor of going with Rabbi Miller to Israel, and he's been the person who led delegations and taught me a lot. And for Shirlane and I, we hold him dear as a friend and as a guide. Very recently, one more thing to say, we had the extraordinary challenge of COVID, and within that challenge, the threat to our seniors, and then within that, something that grabbed at my heart, the fact that we had Holocaust survivors in this city who had been through so much and yet survived, moved forward, showed strength and faith, and now COVID was the danger confronting them. We had to reach them. Rabbi Miller is one of the leaders of the effort to create a vaccination drive specifically focused on Holocaust survivors. We reached thousands of people in need. It made a big, big impact. So I want to take a moment to honor this extraordinary work and to wish him the very best in everything he does ahead. And I have a proclamation, which I'm going to hold up, and you're going to hold the other side, and then you're going to speak. But I have one more thing to say. This is my, proclamations, as always, I say, wonderful verbiage that summarizes why someone is great and worthy. But I like the last part. Now, therefore, I, Bill de Blasio, Mayor of the City of New York, do hereby proclaim Thursday, June 24th, 2021, in the City of New York as Michael Miller Day. Congratulations, my friend. Well deserved.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Great to be with Commissioner Shea as well. And Mr. Mayor, as you indicated, we've known each other for a very long time, dating back, sitting here in this building, in the Blue Room, dating back to your service to Mayor Dinkins. Then, of course, as a city council member, traveled to Israel together. As public advocate, traveled to Israel together with, not only with Shirlane, but also with Dante. Yes. And then, of course, as mayor. You have shown yourself to be a true friend. Our sages teach us, Aseh lecha rav uknei lecha chaver. Make for yourself, appoint for yourself a teacher. I've learned so much from you. Also, acquire a friend. Knei lecha chaver. The word chaver, I think, is familiar to many. And you have been just an exceptional friend, an extraordinary friend. There are two major issues for the Jewish community, as you well know, two threshold issues: combating anti-Semitism and supporting the state of Israel. You not only have walked the walk, you've talked the talk, and the other way around too. You've talked the talk and walked the walk. We walked across the Brooklyn Bridge together on January 5th, 2020, against anti-Semitism. And as I've mentioned, and you mentioned as well, we've flown to Israel together on numerous occasions. I am just very humbled to be sitting here at City Hall together with you as my teacher, as my friend. And I hope that I learn many more things from you in the coming years and that this friendship lasts forever. Thank you very much. There's another principle in Jewish life of hakarat hatov, recognition of good. You have done not only good things, but great things, Mr. Mayor. And my partnership with you, my friendship with you, is one of the things that I'm going to be cherishing for the balance of many years as God gives me. So on behalf of myself, my organization, the Jewish Community Relations Council of New York, all of our leadership, thank you.
Thank you. Well, that's very, very kind of you. I think God's going to give you many years because you have more than earned them. But you've been the teacher, you've been the guide. So thank you, but I'm going to turn it back and say, nope, you've been the teacher, you've been the guide, and you've been an incredible unifying force in this city. So, my friend, you couldn't have done better. This is one thing. I'll give you the grade. You get an A+. You could not have done better. Thank you for everything. Thank you. All right. After that, the indicators are a little anticlimactic, but we'll do them anyway. But I want to thank the indicators. You've been a good friend too, and you've been moving in the right direction. Number one, daily number of people admitted to New York City hospitals for suspected COVID-19. Today's report, 78 patients, confirmed positivity of 16.25%. Hospitalization rate per 100,000, 0.31. Number two, new reported cases on a 7-day average. Today's report is 175 cases. Number three, percentage of people testing positive citywide for COVID-19. Today's report on a 7-day rolling average, 0.53%. Now, a few words in Spanish, and I want to go back to NYPD Kids First. I'm going to make another plug. Check out this booklet. It's really powerful and really moving. Para recuperar nuestra ciudad se necesita un sistema de seguridad pública fuerte. Hoy anunciamos Kids First, el nuevo programa del Departamento de la Policía de Nueva York para proteger a nuestros más pequeños. Nuestra policía va a brindar mentoría, deportes y eventos comunitarios para mantener a nuestros niños a salvo. With that, let's turn to our colleagues in the media, and please let me know the name and outlet of each journalist.
Hi guys, we'll now begin our Q&A. With us today is Rabbi Michael Miller, Police Commissioner Shea, Dr. Katz, Dr. Varma, and Kapel Angani, Counsel to the Mayor. With that, we'll go to Sif from WNBC.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, indeed. How you doing?
Impressive job by Avery, still calling on me even though I had lowered my hand. So I'm going to honor the system and ask a question anyway. Mayor, I wanted to, now that you've had a full day to absorb the mayoral results, I wanted to get your sense of how you would advise New Yorkers to make sense of what happened, given that we have a round of ranked choice voting to be unveiled next week, and then a week after that, and then no certification until mid-July. What should New Yorkers make of this uncertain period?
I don't think there's a lot to worry about. Back in the day, we had September primaries. This would be a really challenging moment if we had a September primary, a November general election, and we were waiting weeks and weeks to know who won the primary. That would be really problematic. But it's a June primary now, and there's time. I don't find this particularly problematic at all. I think what we're seeing is a functioning system. Some races, some of the council races got decided outright. No need for further counting. Others, a lot of races, obviously, it's going to be a few weeks. But the good news is, Andrew, that every vote's going to be counted, and votes are going to have much more impact than ever before, because this is the good part of ranked choice. It's frustrating, I'm not going to lie. There are frustrating elements of ranked choice voting, but the good part is, if you voted, for example, for a mayoral candidate who didn't do so well, your vote continues to stay alive until it finds a home and has the maximum impact. That's pretty cool. So I think people should just recognize there's going to be plenty of scrutiny to make sure the process goes well. It's only a few weeks, and then there's plenty of time for general election campaigns. Go ahead, Andrew.
Catherine Garcia team analyzed the results today and reminded folks that with more than 100,000 absentee ballots returned already, and possibly closer to 200,000 by the time it's all done, that she has a viable path to overtake Eric Adams in the ranked choice voting. Do you agree with that assessment?
I think the history of ranked choice voting and just elections in general, when absentee ballots are involved, suggests that whoever's leading on election day typically does win if it's a pretty decisive margin. We certainly see that here. Eric Adams had a really good night. That said, yesterday I identified 3 leading candidates, Eric Adams, Maya Wiley, and Catherine Garcia, all of whom can legitimately say, until every vote is counted, this isn't over. They all had strong enough showings to say there's more to play out here. So we should all wait for the full result and the whole process. And we want every vote counted, and we want the whole ranked choice process to proceed. And we all want to be able to watch it to see how votes continued to have power even if their first choice didn't win. So that's the way I see the state of affairs right now.
Next is Shant from the Daily News.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Mayor. How are you?
Good, Sean. How you been?
Pretty good, pretty good. So yeah, on the occasion of the primary, the governor kind of held forth yesterday and took some shots at you. Not the first time he's done that. He said your administration was hyper-political and incompetent, making him look forward to your successor. Any response to that?
You know, I'm gonna borrow from something Commissioner Shea said some weeks ago after something else the governor said. My message is I stopped listening to him a long time ago. Go ahead, Sean.
Fair enough. And yeah, with the state of emergency ending, I understand that carry-out booze will also be a thing of the past. Any thoughts on that very popular program? Is there anything the city can do to allow people to allow shops to perpetuate carry-out booze?
Yeah, it actually worked pretty well. I don't blame anyone who thought maybe that could be a little dicey, but it actually worked pretty well. And I am concerned, of course, about all the restaurants and bars that we want to survive as part of the life of the city, all the jobs they provide, the future of our tourism, depends on as well. So I think that should be looked at to see if there's some way to appropriately continue it, at least for the foreseeable future while we're trying to bring back the hospitality industry.
Next is Henry from Bloomberg.
Hello, Mr. Mayor. How are you doing? It was a moving tribute to Rabbi Miller.
Thank you, Henry. Well, from the heart, really from the heart. Also, he knew me when I had long, curly, dark hair. Those were the days. So when I see him, I feel young again. Go ahead, Henry.
Fair enough. I want to go back to the question I asked yesterday, actually, about the budget. I wanted to know what the points of contention are between you and members of the city council that still need to be resolved. What are those issues that remain outstanding?
Henry, I appreciate the question, but I'm honestly going to tell you, I don't think it's an issue of points of contention. I think it is an issue of figuring out priorities and refining them. And this is a part of the budget process where there's a lot of back and forth on exactly what dollar figure to put into certain initiatives, what will work, what's viable, what's a priority. It's not a contentious moment. There's been lots of negotiation over weeks and weeks. And at this moment, I think it's leading us to a good place. Go ahead, Henry.
What are the issues? Which areas are still up in the air in terms of how much you want to spend on what? What are the various issues that must be resolved before you have a budget agreement?
For example, historically, Henry, council has a very strong interest in cultural organizations. Let's use that as an example. Determining what's the right dollar figure is the conversation we're going through now. It's always been a priority for the council. We want to figure out with them what makes sense in light of other priorities as well. They've always focused heavily on libraries and other area. This is well known. Figuring out, though, what is the exact right number, what is the exact type of initiative, these are things we're working through. The council, to their great credit, and I mean really great credit in recent years, has focused a lot on reserves. We've continued to build up reserves. That's a real conversation too. What's the next step we should take in building reserves further? These are all the kinds of topics, but again, they're the topics that are being discussed collegially, trying to figure out what is the right balance.
Next, we'll go to James from Pix 11.
And good morning, Mr. Mayor and everyone on the call, and congratulations to Rabbi Miller.
James, you forgot to say it is once again, objectively and truly, a beautiful day in New York City.
That it is, that it is. And on to my question. You talked about the lifting of the state's state of emergency, bringing back local control. The state of emergency included daily updates on COVID numbers from the state. The governor said that will now end. Will it end on the city level? And by the way, I'm not encouraging that, especially if it involves ending these daily news conferences, which have boosted our access to government and to you. But please elaborate on the changes that local control will bring.
Yeah, James, I think these briefings have been very important, and they will certainly continue. We did a little analysis about the kind of briefings that have been given around the country by mayors, governors in the context of COVID, particularly in the year 2021, and can safely say I'm taking the most questions, or one of the largest groups of questions of any chief executive in the nation, and I think it's been very healthy for everyone. So we'll continue these briefings. I would say, as has been the case often, the city of New York takes a cautious approach. And so we are going to keep close eye on the data. We're going to keep updating people for the foreseeable future on the indicators. So far, our experience dealing with the variants has been very successful, but this ball game ain't over. Lot to play out to continue the vaccination effort, to guard against any new challenges with COVID, obviously getting ready for schools to open fully in September. So James, my answer is, I think we'll stick with this regular briefing approach for the foreseeable future. Go ahead.
Good to hear. You've also had praise for essential workers, and yesterday the governor unveiled renderings of the Circle of Heroes monument to those we've lost and to essential workers who helped New York get through the tragedy. Journalists are not mentioned specifically as essential workers in the memorial, even though we were essential workers and still are. What might you do to single out journalists for our work and sacrifices during the state of emergency, during the pandemic?
It's a great, great point. And I really want to say I appreciate how many journalists went out there, put themselves in harm's way, got people information they needed. It was often very tough to do during COVID, but you and so many of your colleagues did the work that was needed to help the people of the city. I want to thank you, and that needs to be recognized in our Hometown Heroes Parade on July 7th, and we will do that in other ways as well. I think it's really important to understand, and we talked about this, James, along the way. I've tried to express thankfulness to journalists who have raised important issues that we need to address, things we didn't necessarily see playing out, that they heard from the grassroots that I needed to know, my team needed to know. But also people are so hungry for information, and they needed it during this crisis, and you and your colleagues were there. So real appreciation for that, and we're certainly going to honor it, including on July 7th.
Next is Nolan from the Post.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Nolan. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, Mr. Mayor. How are you?
Good. I had some extra coffee this morning in honor of you.
Well, I appreciate that. I hope you got it from a local coffee provider.
That is always the goal.
Is there a plan to save / revive the Woolly, or are we going to be stuck going to the 5 and dime for the foreseeable future?
Wait a minute. Is there a plan to what?
The Woolly, the coffee shop.
The Woolly. Okay, yeah. We're moving on.
Fair enough. You had nice words for the president's announcement on crime and guns yesterday, which will give the city some latitude to redirect COVID funds towards public safety. How much money are you guys planning to move, and to which programs?
Well, we just heard the announcement, Nolan, so that's something we're going to work through. The direction of the president's plan is absolutely right, and I'm very appreciative to President Biden for what he's doing. And we're going to look now at what those resources could mean for us. What we do know is a lot of the approaches that we're investing in are having an impact, and will have more impact as they grow. And this is only going to help us. Absolutely. Go ahead, Nolan.
All right, and I guess just something of a related matter, you said yesterday that it behooves the council to tweak the ban on chokeholds that they passed. I believe it was last summer. You did not mention that this.
Wait a minute. Make sure we understand. You're saying the legislation.
Diaphragm bill.
Right.
The diaphragm bill.
Right.
They passed. Then you signed. The court struck it down. You said that it behooves the council to take action to fix it. You made no mention of an appeal. Does the city plan to appeal that ruling? And if not, why not?
Nolan, we want to just get the legislation amended to address the concerns raised by the court. If we can do that quickly, and I do believe we can, then there's no need for an appeal. So that's plan A here. Let's just fix the law.
Next is Ravane from Hamodia.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Hey,
Eric Adams, we know that he opposed the defund movement and also, supported a modified version of stop and frisk. 3 of the top 4 finishers actually opposed many of the more liberal police reforms. What do you think the results of the election say about what New Yorkers want from their policing?
I want to again, because this came up yesterday, on what Eric has said on stop and frisk, and I've looked at a lot of what he said, not just this year, but years and years before. I really think there's a little bit of looseness in how people are interpreting it. He has said consistently that the previous policy, the unconstitutional and broken policy of stop and frisk in the previous administration was wrong. He was one of the leaders in the effort to get it changed. He's also said that when used properly, constitutionally, appropriately, it is a valid policing tool, but it's one you use sparingly. So I really think it's important to be fair to what he has said historically on that. I think what the election results say, Ravane, is that people want balance. They want fair policing, respectful policing. They want to make sure there's not discrimination, but they also want safety. They want to know that when they need help from a police officer, there's an officer going to be there. They want to make sure their communities are working with the police. That's what the vast majority of New York City residents want. And that's why I think neighborhood policing, as we found for years, represented the vast majority view of the people of the city. Neighborhood policing epitomized what the vast majority of people wanted. And I spent a lot of time in working class communities around the city, in communities of color around the city, and that's what I heard overwhelmingly. Fair, respectful policing is what people want. Go ahead, Ravane.
So it looks like at least one DSA candidate won the council race, possibly more. I'm wondering what you think of that and what you think of the DSA movement in general.
What was the last part?
Sorry, the DSA movement.
I think the underlying principles are ones I feel a lot of alignment to. I think the approach, depending on the individual, sometimes makes a lot of sense and sometimes doesn't. I mean, obviously, I very energetically supported Bernie Sanders in this last election. I think he epitomizes a lot of the good we've seen in that movement. I think there's some other folks in the movement who need to do more work to listen to communities, to work with other people collegially. I think it's a mixed bag, like any other movement, any other organization. The underlying principles, there's some very good stuff. Some of the specifics, obviously, I might disagree on.
We have time for 2 more. First, we'll go to Yoav from the city.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. Just in the context of the state emergency declaration ending, there was a component that the city had something similar, and forgive me if you've already addressed this, but is that ending at the same time, the emergency contracting and those types of things?
It's a really good question, Yoav. We're in a different situation because we're where the rubber hits the road. So we have to assess first what the state has done and then the ramifications for us and how we might make adjustments. I think we have made a lot of progress coming out of this crisis. As I said, there are still elements of this crisis that we're attending to and that we have to be ready to deal with if we see any changes. So we're going to assess that now and have more to say on that in the next few days. Go ahead, Yoav.
Okay, well, just to drill down, let's focus on emergency contracting, for example. Why would that still be necessary at this point?
The question is always going to be what we need ready in the event of any resurgence. I don't predict a resurgence right now. I think we're doing really, really well. The level of vaccination is outstanding. It continues to grow. But we do need to be mindful. There's still a challenge out there. We have to be able to address it. That's something we're going to look at to make sure, God forbid, there's something else we have to do, that we are well positioned to do it. We obviously have a strategic reserve we've built up. All of these pieces have to be evaluated. Whatever happens, Yoav, I want to make sure we're ready for any change, any development thrown at us.
Last, we'll go to Kevin from the Brooklyn paper.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, how you doing?
Good, Kevin. How you doing?
Can't complain. I wanted to see if I could get some more details about the NYPD Kids First program. It sounds like it's an umbrella of a lot of existing programs. Can you say what specifically is new about this and how much funding is being directed towards it?
I will start and I'll turn to Commissioner Shea. Kevin, look, I think the best way to think about this is it is a shift in orientation. It is a strategic shift to declare throughout the entire NYPD and the entire city that the focus needs to be on young people and these proactive, positive attempts to reach young people. The commissioner can speak more eloquently than I can, but I heard him when we first started working together talk about this with real passion about the difference between encountering a young person after some real problems had occurred in their life, and now we were dealing with a challenge and a problem, and that kid was in a problem, versus seeing a warning sign and dealing with it right then, or reaching a young person even before there's a problem and giving them a positive path. It is a difference of strategy and orientation. I think it's going to make a big difference. A lot of pieces, some of which have been around for a while, some of which are more newly created. But this is a powerful direction. Commissioner, to the specifics, all yours.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and you're right, Mr. Mayor, it's a combination. There's an awful lot that is new. I would bring you back a step. If you think about crime fighting in New York City and with the NYPD, it's something that we've been extremely proud of for a long time. If a robbery happens or there's a pattern of crimes in an area, we knew how to attack it. We knew how to attack it and solve the problem in a concentrated area. We were a little spread out on services with youth. So now, since last year, with the addition of the youth coordination officers and providing additional training to them, we're kind of looking at it in the same venue. What do we do with a child that lives in a particular area that we run into that needs services or maybe on the wrong track? And are those police officers aware of every potential avenue that's available to them? The answer was no, from a police department perspective. The answer today is a firm yes. There's a lot that's been done in the last year and a half. I'll just point towards you again, that track that kids are on, are we doing everything possible? And we've historically done a lot to help kids, but we're doing more than ever. We're partnering more than ever with local community groups, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, for example, the New York City Police Foundation. Absolutely, firm support that they're providing to us. The amount of internships that we're providing, working with the Police Foundation and steering kids toward private-public partnerships with businesses, incredibly proud. And again, I touched on sports before, but not every kid is involved in sports. So we are doing programs with robotics. We are doing programs with mentoring. Yes, we are teaching kids how to draw up resumes. We're teaching kids how to open up bank accounts. So there's a whole umbrella of services that are now being provided at local levels, at 127 Penn, and there is quite a bit new. And if you want to know more, I advise you to come out to the 42nd Precinct tonight at 4 o'clock, and you're going to hear more of what we're doing.
Thank you. And Kevin, just the fact that there's youth coordination officers, I mean, that just really bears recognition. The officers whose focus is to develop relationships with young people and find ways to help proactively. Incredibly powerful, positive initiative. And the fact that so many kids are going to be given hope, are going to be given opportunity, are going to feel what their potential is in new ways. What better way to avert problems and crisis than to reach a young person and actually show them their positive potential? I think it's really, really powerful. Go ahead, Kevin.
All right. My other question was how much funding was going to go to this initiative. You haven't answered that. How much?
Sorry, Commissioner, I know a lot of this was from existing resources and from asset forfeiture. I don't think there's many new needs because you're using existing funds, but please clarify that.
That's correct. We're using existing budget within the NYPD and shifting resources.
That,
I'm sorry, on the basketball courts and activating public spaces and even larger planned things that Chauncey Parker in his great mind is envisioning. We're working with a number of agencies. That's where we're redirecting some of the asset forfeiture money, and we're trying to organize a movement to get donations to see a few things come to fruition.
and I would strongly urge folks to get involved in this Kids First approach and support it in communities all over the city. And as the Commissioner said, 4 o'clock today will be a great example of this approach coming to life. So bottom line, recovery equals public safety equals recovery. These pieces go together hand in hand. This is how we bring back our city, and this is the kind of thing that's going to make a huge difference. Thank you, everyone.